Only you killed him.
No. You are a frog.
Has anyone ever told you you sound like Wheatley from Portal 2? What's your Amon build? Waiting for Amon build. Which Amon build are you using in this gameplay? Are we getting an updated Amon build? What build you using in this video? Bro's using the worst Amon build known to mankind from Fence Slayer? Hello you dirty frogs, I know it turns you on whenever I say that. Let's get this video started today by leaving in the comment section down below what you had for breakfast today. Let's hope it was not Fent. Guys, after many comments asking for it, and just in time for the new DLC and potentially a new level cap tomorrow if you're watching this, you know, when I just put it up, in which case, please leave a like on the video. I bring to you my Chud Amon build, which is ready for the new DLC. This is a very gear dependent build and it is an incredibly min-maxed one, so just a fair warning before we go any further, you're going to need to farm for this, so please don't get mad at me in the comment section down below. And guys, let's get right into the video. We're going to start off with the gear as we typically do around here. And first of all, I'm going to show you my gear rotation and kind of what I use on this build. Okay, so firstly is the star of the show. It is the roulette pistol. This, of course, drops from the new DLC bounty pack, and this is basically the gun that I use 24/7 in this build. There's a few rotations of gear you can do in this build, but I'm going to show you the main one first. So you want to go and get yourself a roulette with a Ripper magazine, and if you can, also get Jacob's Ricochet, but as you can see here, I don't have it and I do just fine, so don't worry too much about Jacob's Ricochet, but if you can get it with Ripper, then by all means do. If you don't know how this gun works, every time you reload, you get a buff, which can enhance the fire rate and more, and basically Ripper's going to make this thing full auto, and it's going to turn it into an absolute DPS machine. I have slammed Bloomreaper with this build many a time. It is very fun. The second gun in the build is going to be a linebacker. Get yourself a fire one and also a non-elemental one. I'll show you why later, and I'll also show you why we have the Sweet Embrace. This one always comes with Jacob, so don't worry about that. It's going to be more of a challenge to try and get something like COV, but really not necessary. Just get yourself a Sweet Embrace. I like to get a cryo one, but also fire and shock is very good. And now into our rep kit. I'm using a purple rep kit with the splash damage enhancement and also enrage, which gives us an increase to all damage dealt. Although you can mix this up, and if you really want, you could go with a war paint, which is going to increase your fire rate even more, which honestly probably wouldn't be a bad choice. I just don't want to have to keep swapping out my rep kit, so I've gone with this, also because of the splash damage, which is utilized by the Sweet Embrace and the linebacker. I kind of want the best of both worlds here, but if you want to sub this out for a war paint, feel free. The firmware you'll be getting on that is high caliber, or at least just make sure in this build you have 3 high caliber. You can see my firmware on the left. We'll go over that really quickly before we move on. We have 3 high cal, 1 into heating up, and 1 into airstrike. So just so you're aware, those are the firmware. For the grenade, we run the Slippy. Now you want to get extra charge on this if you can. I have not done that because farming Shadow Pelt makes me want to pull one of my testicles out. But if you can handle it, then go and do Shadow Pelt. I just will be driven insane trying to do it. Into our class mod, go for a Shadow White and try to get 5 into Berserk. I don't think the extra passive below cryo damage really matters here too much, like I would not lose sleep over it, but get as many points into Berserk as you can. For the shield, right now I'm using a What's for Dinner. This is probably going to change when the story DLC drops, but for now it's a What's for Dinner, and I've got Amp on it, which really isn't even needed. The What's for Dinner is just here because it's a nice shield to have, and we want that bonus shock damage, but you can go with like a Siphon one if you want, or Fleeting if you want, but the What's for Dinner is still, in my opinion, probably the best in-slot shield in Borderlands 4 right now, so that's why we're using it. And lastly, for my enhancement, I just put up a video on how to farm legendary enhancements if you want to go and check that out. You don't need a legendary enhancement for this build, but I use them a lot in the rotation. The one I am using right now is Ripper with Freeloader, because the best thing about the roulette is shooting it and killing with it, but the worst thing is having to reload it because you don't want to lose those buffs. So we want to get Freeloader as our priority because we want to refill the mag when it's empty. And also I chose to go with the legendary enhancement so we can get High Roller, which is a very nice bonus for us too. And then also here, I could get a better version of this, but you'll see that I have gun fire rate in my passives. That is very nice for me. I would like to get gun damage, and maybe by the time the DLC comes out, I would have farmed one. But gun fire rate, for me, just feels so nice on this, and I would obviously love to get fire rate and gun damage, but I don't think it's going to happen. Okay, so I also, in this rotation, have a Jacob's enhancement with bounce pass and piercer. This one is an extremely disgusting roll, as you can see, and this is obviously another alternative you can use to the Ripper enhancement if you have Jacob's Ricochet. You can play around with either one. I personally haven't played around with Jacob's yet. It could be better for all I know, but it's in here just to let you know that a Jacob's enhancement might be really, really nice here too, so play around with that. And then finally, if I am to swap off to something like my linebacker, which is a Torg, what I'm actually looking for here is some kind of enhancement with, at the bare minimum, head ringer, and if possible, I also want to get shotgun splash damage on there. If you can also get splash radius as well, I've heard that is disgusting, but in a nutshell, with the linebacker, you really want to prioritize getting as much splash radius as you can, because you can see, like, right there, there's almost nothing happening with it, but the moment that you put a little bit of splash onto it, it gets way crazier. So if you can get as much splash radius as you can for the linebacker, you'll find it to be very deadly, not only to enemies but also yourself. So just a heads up there. Now, instead of doing skill tree next, we'll go into specialization here. I'm just going to show you the perks that we've taken. First of all, we have best defense because it's literally free damage. There's no reason not to take this. We have CQC because melee damage will grant us more fire rate, and as we know, fire rate is damage. This gets procced off of throwing our Slippy, so we should always have this up, and we should always have 30% extra fire rate. Very, very good skill. Don't skip this in specializations. Then you can play around with, you know, your choice down here, but I personally roll with I am a gun. And then for my last one, I'm running bullet train. Okay, so this is my specialization loadout. I know that you might not have the points to get this. Feel free to get a little more creative here, but try to stick with what I've got if you can. Now, into the skill tree. Let's take a look at red tree first. We have 5 points into what burns within, 1 point into gut punch, 4 points into tritanium, 1 point into the best defense, 4 points into bullet storm, 5 points into catastrophe, 5 points into berserk, 3 points into There Is Only Red, 2 points into Bloodlust, and 3 points into My Touch is Death. And something I'm going to show you guys, which is very cool, I have to thank Lazy Data for this recommendation here. 1 point into Fist of Stone. This is going to repair our Forge skill cooldown extremely quick whenever we deal melee damage, and you really do only need 1 point. Now, I am sacrificing maybe like a tiny bonus by having that point there, but why am I doing it? Well, because when you farm bosses over and over and over in this game, you might be familiar with entering a vendor to reset your cooldowns, but it doesn't reset your Forge skill cooldown. So whenever we go into a fight, what are we doing? Well, we're throwing our fish slap at an enemy so that we can trigger all of our buffs. So we're always going to do this anyway, right? And we will have our fish slap because we looked in a vendor. So when that hits the boss, we're then going to get our Forge skill back. So it's just more uptime to make farming more consistent. If you're not a farmer and you don't care about that, then feel free not to put the point there. Also, for our augments, we are using Force of Nature, and we're using Whore Cleave as the capstone. Whore Cleave is unbelievably strong. It freezes pretty much everything in the game apart from most major bosses instantly, and it makes farming really effective, especially when you're farming someone like Rock'n'Roller who rolls around constantly. This will freeze Rock'n'Roller, but don't get your hopes up, it won't freeze most of the major bosses, but mini bosses and whatnot, you will be able to freeze them, or at least at the very minimum slow them down, and that's going to make the fight way easier for yourself. It also nukes enemies too, so don't skip out on Hawkleaf, please. Alright, and tidying up this build by taking a look at the green tree, we have 5 points into Gathering Storm for the elemental damage buff. We have 5 points into Executioner for critical hit damage, which doubles when we deal melee damage, and then we have 5 points into Vital Organs, which gives us crit hit chance. Okay, so how do we play this build? Let's start off with the linebacker. We put our linebacker on, we swap to our Torg enhancement. Hopefully you get gun damage on this, like I said, and also some damage radius and splash damage, whatnot. and head ringer obviously is a must for this. We go into combat. What do? We pop our action skill, we put down our rep kit there, we throw our Slippy for our bonuses, and then with the linebacker you really want to try and get it to overlap enemies against a wall, although it can be difficult to do that, and if you can't do that you're probably going to lose damage. But where the linebacker really shines is getting the bounces to just kind of repeat in one spot to take out enemies. So that is basically how the linebacker works. Also, just be aware that when you're farming the linebacker, you want to try and get a pretty high damage roll. I personally don't have that, which is a real shame, but you do want to go and try to get that if you can. For playing the Sweet Embrace, I swap over to a Jacobs enhancement, and that's because this always rolls with Jacobs no matter what. That could be the gimmick of the gun. I don't really know what the gimmick of this thing is, apart from it firing in a quad formation. But I think maybe it's the built-in Jacobs, it always rolls with it. This is very simple. So basically, in a nutshell, because the Sweet Embrace is a Malawan weapon, it has splash damage. So we use High Cal 3 to our advantage here by making sure that we're hitting twice with all 4 of those projectiles, right? If you can get some radius here, it's going to help you out. But in a nutshell, your gameplay looks like this. You go over to the enemy and you just fire from above to get those bullets to land twice, right? You want to hit the enemy numerous times if you can. That is, in a nutshell, how the Sweet Embrace works for this build. This was what I was originally running on this build for a long time, and it's what I was clearing a lot of the content with. But obviously the roulette came out and changed a lot of things up, but the Sweet Embrace was kind of my main go-to gun. I think it's also one of the most underrated shotguns in the game, or at least overlooked. It is extremely powerful, and I never see it getting the rub it deserves. So again, make sure when you're playing this build, you see an enemy, you go above them, and you're just shooting at their feet, basically through their head, so that High Cal is doing all of the work that it needs to do in order to get this thing absolutely destroying enemies on the highest difficulty. However, the good news is that this is not by far the strongest thing in this build. Of course, that goes to the roulette, which we're about to get to. So for the roulette, I'm actually going to swap to my Ripper enhancement here. And again, the roulette is an extremely easy gun to use. It kind of just makes this build easy mode. Just keep reloading, keep expending ammo, and just start dumpstering enemies with this weapon, because that is what it does best. It is an extremely easy weapon to use and makes this build extremely easy to play. I mean, you can see how fast these enemies are dying here. This is just borderline easy mode. If they're escaping you, if you can't catch them because they're teleporting around, that's why we have Hawk Cleave there, because Hawk Cleave is just so damn good. But this is basically what I do 24/7. This is how I clear Bloomreaper, get platinum on Bloomreaper. This is how I, just have been doing every single thing since I got my hands on this gun and integrated it into this build. Now, like I said, if you can get your hands on a roulette with Jacobs Ricochet and the Ripper Mag, I think that it is a no-brainer at that point just to put on the Jacobs enhancement, and you'll probably send the damage that I'm showing you today into the stratosphere. So I definitely recommend that you go ahead and do that. But for me personally, I just haven't needed to. It's disgusting as it is, and I've had no problem running any content in the game with it. But if you are seeking more damage, of course, go for the Jacobs Ricochet. Again, I just don't need to. I don't need to, so there's no need to over min-max something that's already extremely min-max as it is. But again, the world is your oyster. Go ahead and have a blast. But either way, this is the build I'll be taking in to the new DLC when it launches. And I am going to be just using it until I have no reason not to. Maybe there's going to be a better Amon build that comes out when there is new class mods added. But for now, this is the main one that I am running 24/7 when I am playing the game. So you dirty frogs, that's going to do it for this video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please leave a like on it, because it does help in the YouTube algorithm. I mean, it really does. So if you could leave a like on it, that would be greatly appreciated. And you don't have to sub. You'll be back next time anyway. Thank you guys so much for watching. I'll check you all in the next one, and have a great rest of your day.